to some
Yes.
questions.
Let me just quickly
Yeah,
finish
I'm
the
sorry.
story. No, and I'm
No, no,
sorry,
no.
I don't mean to, and you should.
1 second.
But he, I sat down there, and he was a man that didn't waste time, and he said, "Tell me about the play that's The Devils." And he said, I said, "Well," and I told him briefly the story about the nun and the priest, and how it's really a play about hysteria, and that's what we were facing. You know, if you strike a match, you're going to get a reaction to it. That's clearly not always accepted, but in the true story, in a city or village in France, they burned the priest and the nun at the stake. So he said to me, I told him that, and he said, he said, do you have to do it first? And I said, no, I suppose I don't have to do it first, but we're already in rehearsal. But he told me what struck the cardinal, which was the cardinal had heard there was a movie about the Devils of Loudun, and it was a Polish movie. Therefore, it was a communist movie. And he said, "I want to get my hands on it." And Lou said, "Well, I'll send somebody to," and he called the London office, got one of the people in black suits, and they went to Poland, and they got a print, and they brought it back, and the cardinal watched it, and in effect, he backed off from it, but it was already, the match was lit there, it was already hit. So you have to do those things, and I learned a lot about that doing it, and I think it informed my life and changed my life. And I've kept touch with some of the people, George Michie and the Melvilles, and there's some letters out there that, and I did see Dan not so long ago, and he's a bit frail, but as I told somebody, I walked down in an apartment in New York at Fordham University, which wasn't a building, it was a building they owned, but it wasn't just for students or what have you. And I went up to whatever floor it was and stepped out, and it was a typical apartment building with doors, they all looked the same, and little peepholes and what have you. And I turned the corner, and there was this one door colorfully adorned with "Peace Now," and well, it just totally cut. And that, I said, okay, I'm at Danbury.
Young lady, you had a question?
Oh yeah, I'm not so young. Thank you very much. And I think the present director is sitting next to you. Yeah. Having heard, thank you. It was very moving what you shared. Why did you choose this to direct, and what has it done for you? I mean, I'm sort of following up on a younger version of yourself.
Did everybody hear that?
The question, did everybody hear the question? The question was, why did I choose it, which I didn't, but why did I choose it, and what did it do for me? Tim actually chose it, and he had done a reading, well, he did a reading of it that Gordon directed at the Kirk Douglas, was it last April, or I don't know, something like that, year and a half ago. And was very moved by the whole thing, and everybody was, and so Tim decided we should do it in the season. He didn't have a director attached to it, and I one time went up to him and said, "So what am I directing this year?" And he said, "I don't know, you didn't give me any suggestions this year." So I said, "Well, how about Catonsville Nine?" He goes, "All right." So that's how I got it. So anyway, what it did for me is a long question. I mean, it's still doing for me. And I think I can speak for you guys in a lot of ways that it's done a lot for all of us. And for me, though, it's really awakened my interest in the importance of how theater, this art form, is that important in getting and communicating and having a dialogue with the public. And the great thing about, one thing that Tim and I talked about was, you know, I wanted to do it, open it before the election. And we talked about it. He said, well, no, let's, you know, I don't think we need to. I think it's going to be, you know, just as viable afterwards. And we realized that actually it's more important to do it after the election, because now is when everybody's motivated. And even though it wasn't the kind of play, it is the kind of play that I think motivates everybody in here and motivates people who may not be in here. But you know, what's important about it is that it motivates us right now. And it motivates us in a place, an area we really need to be motivated in, and especially with this young president, who I think needs a lot of guidance, as we all do, and he needs a lot of support from the public. And the you know, it really needs to be a grassroots thing. And the great thing about this kind of theater is that I found that there's a direct link between what we're doing here and activism. And it's great, you know, people like April, who's a veteran in the Air Force, and other people who have a couple veterans in the company, but also people who she's brought to the table. And it's really important because it's so much more, it's such a thing now. So I'm just driven. I feel like joining, you know, Clowns Without Borders tomorrow and getting on it.
Yeah. Just a little postscript to it. Tim approached me to do the play, and my first reaction was, I don't know, it's so right for its time, and I've done it, and I've, you know, been involved, and maybe it's good to pass it on. And then I reread it. I said I reread it, and I realized that other than the fact that they burned draft cards, and there was no draft then, and that was those of you who didn't live through that, it was a very, very scary time, because we knew what was coming, and the Vietnam War, and my God, we were all eligible for cannon fodder. But aside from that, everything about the play was pertinent, everything. And I said, okay, I got to do it. We'll do this together. And the one striking thing that happened when we did it, and afterwards people were talking, is there were people in the audience who had seen it before or knew the history, and then there were a lot of young people who just didn't know what Catonsville was.